Kevin Bacon stars in a series that's a mix of the TV show Evil and the Evil Dead and Frighteners movies called The Bondsman. Now, it's coming to Prime Video, and it is surprisingly gory, but does the supernatural end of it hold up? Murdered bounty hunter Hub Halloran is resurrected by the devil to trap and send back demons that have escaped from the prison of hell. By chasing down those demons with the help and hindrance of his estranged family, Hub learns how his own sins got his soul condemned, which pushes him to seek a second chance at life, love, and country music. Kevin Bacon is Halloran, this bounty hunter in this really small country town. He works with his mom, who's played by Beth Grant, and she is also a bondsperson. They do their normal thing of catching skips. One day, going after a bounty, Halloran finds himself not so alive, but is then shockingly returned to the world with a new responsibility, which is tracking down rogue demons and sending them back to hell. Now, this is mainly a procedural show. Most episodes feature Halloran going after the demon of the day, only to battle it out and hopefully succeed at sending the entity home. And because the episodes are relatively short, most right around that 30-minute mark, this format works to keep the story moving and energetic, while also providing the opportunity to showcase some wicked gore. Now, there's an overarching storyline that plays out, which helps to tie all of the eps together and make the show more bingeable as a whole. Bacon plays Halloran to be very gruff, riding the line between tolerable and despicable. And he has a teenage son, and then also an ex-wife, who's played by Jennifer Nettles, and her new sketchy-as-heck boyfriend, who's played by Damon Herrion. Now, Halloran also has a supervisor of sorts when it comes to the demon wrangling, and I love that it's a mild-mannered, very unassuming housewife, played by Jolene Purdy. And the cast as a whole, it works for the story, even though they are all exactly who and what you might expect as characters. I mean, there's nothing surprising in the development, so they come across as generic versions of small-town country people. That's not to say that they aren't fun to watch, though. I mean, especially when it comes to southern snarkiness. Both Grant and Nettles are feisty, and they are great to counter Halloran's gruffness. They both work to add compassion or reason to the story when it's needed, but also because they call Halloran out on his crap, they're the voice of logic that can sometimes prevent us from yelling at the TV. They say the smart things that we're thinking that are meant to counteract the dumb things a character gets involved with. Now, I was surprised by the level of gruesomeness this series contained. And I'm not complaining at all. It was just a bit sudden when one of the very first sequences features the inside of a gaping throat. Other times, we get to see large amounts of blood and gore splash onto the characters, just thanks to the untimely demise of some demon's earthly shell. Now, it's not an overused feature in the series, but this isn't afraid to get gross when it needs to. Also, though, the CGI, it's not always good. Sometimes it's just downright awful. There are a few moments when we get to see a facet of a demon, and these are clearly not practical effects, nor are they accomplished through makeup. The overall lackluster appearance of the effects detracts from the creepiness this attempts to set up, and can even hinder the ick factor to a degree. And with that being said, though, there is a wonderful nod to Bruce Campbell's Ash in an episode when we get the combo of bacon, a demon, and a chainsaw. So there is that to look forward to. You have to go with the huge story convenience that allows all of the demons that Halloran is chasing to show up in this one town. I mean, it's a bit contrived and unbelievable, but not dwelling on that issue helps the story flow better. There's a connection and reasoning behind the convergence of the fiends, but that comes later into the show. So if you find yourself struggling at the beginning at how each day Halloran can wake up and be notified a new baddie is on the loose, don't dismiss it outright. It is going to make sense at some point. Now, one part of the show that for 99% felt like a self-serving promotional video for their music, both Bacon and Nettles are featured multiple times playing guitar or singing. And a lot of it sounds good. I mean, if you weren't aware, Bacon has a band, and then Nettles is a longtime country singer. But even though they have talent, the playing and singing felt to be more of a filler. There's even this minor offshoot story arc that deals with one of their musical careers. Thankfully, though, the singing does work its way into the plot in a believable and natural way. I mean, it's not like I minded hearing the songs, especially when I might add some emotional depth to a scene. Like one example is they start singing, "Will the Circle Be Unbroken?" And it's just, it's chilling. But most times, these musical interludes took more prominence than I thought they warranted. Now, the themes of guilt and regret are very prominent within the story, creating weight and consequences for the characters who are either driven by those emotions or just simply suffering because of them. Bacon explores these a lot with his character, showing us the mental anguish his decisions create, not only for him, but also those he loves. Because, as I had said before, he's gruff and not wholly likable, he tends to rub just about everybody the wrong way at one point or another, or maybe even consistently, and it just depends on the person. But when he does this with those he cares for, we get to watch him beat himself up mentally, knowing the right thing to do or say, but in the moment, choosing the exact opposite. And I like what this sets up for the plot, because when Halloran can soften himself, he can gain the trust and the help that he needs. But when guilt or shame rears up in him, it can also just cloud his judgment and then create exacerbated scenarios. Now, there are a bunch of predictable outcomes, and just like with the overall plot convenience, the episodes, they feature a lot of protection for the story resolution. I wasn't watching so much to see if Halloran would succeed in a particular battle with a demon, but instead, I wanted to see what kind of creative end the show would create for the Hell Dwellers. If you love to binge things like me, then you'll be happy that all 8 episodes, they drop at once. Because they're relatively short, this is a fast binge. But just like with miniseries nowadays, this one ends on a cliffhanger, and it is going to frustrate to no end if it doesn't end up getting renewed. So overall, while the show is predictable and formulaic, the story does create an intriguing and exciting atmosphere that's complemented by Bacon's surly demeanor and burdened performance. The characters might be simply developed and lacking depth, but they do work as an ensemble to convincingly build a small-town dysfunctional family vibe, which the story can exploit. And despite less than wonderful special effects, the addition of surprising bloody gore makes this able to satisfy the need of anybody looking to enter into a supernatural series that's not afraid to get a little silly. There's no sex or nudity, ton of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give The Bondsman 3 out of 5 couches. And this isn't an awesome series, but it is a lot of fun to watch. What are some supernatural shows that you like to watch? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.